Hello, all you positive heads out there. It is so good to be back with all you beautiful reflections of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. If you're new to this podcast, of course, we are super happy to have you here, and we just ask that you bring an open heart and open mind to your listening experience and to be prepared to explore vantage points that I'm convinced will help shift or solidify your current understanding of the ultimate nature of reality in a way that is extremely empowering. Speaking of exploring powerful perspectives, I'm super excited to announce that on January 18th, originally January 5th, but I needed to push it back a bit, I'm going to be freely gifting each of you my very first book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. In the book, which was initially shown to me in a dream and has been followed by a next level amount of synchronicity, by the way, I share the keys to manifesting abundance that I've personally discovered over 20 plus years of trial, error, and deep exploration of these perspectives, as well as one golden key that ultimately ties them all together. Also, I would like to invite you to participate in a unique abundance manifestation game with me and the other readers that is outlined in detail at the end of the book and at the book's website, goldenkey.gift, where readers will also share the inspiring results of their abundance manifestation experiments. So if you're wanting 2021 to be the year that you alchemize the circumstances in your life so that your abundance expands to an entirely new level, head over to goldenkey.gift to sign up to accept my golden gift to you right when it comes out. All right, all you positive heads, on this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have my friend Mark England back here with me on the show. Mark is a lifelong personal development enthusiast and the co-founder of Procabulary, where he has coached thousands of folks worldwide on how to use the power of words and weave empowering stories. He was originally on the podcast way back in the early days on episode 20, and I am super excited to catch up with him today. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Brandon, thank you for having me back 1,380 shows later. Congratulations, man. That's something. It's literally, it's impressive.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been a minute, right? It's just funny to think how time is such a weird thing. When you and I first connected on the show, it was like I remember it like it was yesterday, and just, even having a conversation with you prior to us recording, and it's just like, whoa, 5+ years, here we are, all these episodes, and I was such a beginner at this whole thing then. So yeah, it's really cool to have you back, man.
Yeah, way to be consistent. Way to make a decision and follow through with it.
Well, look, hey, look at you. Same exact thing. Procabulary, I think, was pretty young at that time. And I've just consistently seen you, sticking with your message and your branding and your, the energy of what you brought. I thought was so cool, which is why I had you on originally. And it's just been great to see you continue. And it seems like there's been a lot of development, on that front for you as well. And I want to hear all about it. But before I do, I would like to start off with what has become my very cliche opening question. And I don't think I'd come up with it quite yet back on episode 20. But it is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
Taking complex conversations and making them simple.
Excellent. I like that. Well, let's do this. If you would, give us a little backstory on how you ended up, doing what you do, and anything that you really feel is relevant to share with the listeners. Just to give us some context.
Happy to, Brandon. So once upon a time, I thought I was a tough guy. And
I like that.
It's true, man. Yeah, I thought I was a tough guy, and I moved over to Bangkok, Thailand to train Thai boxing over there. I wrestled in high school, and I got into took my first jiu-jitsu class in 1996. and got
Wow.
into mixed martial arts,
Mhm.
and I competed at an amateur level, and I had some success. And the opportunity to go to Thailand, it came across my path, and I said, "Yes, I'm going." And the plan was to go over for a year, polish up my skills, come back, go pro. That's not what happened. 6 months in, I had my second knee surgery, and the whole thing stopped. And when I mean the whole thing stopped, my identity went down in flames so hardcore that I didn't
Ego death.
laugh for an entire year.
Wow.
I might not have even authentically smiled for an entire year because
Wow.
I had such a raging victim story, victim mentality, again, raging in my head. It took up the entirety of my mental real estate, and massively affected every area of my life. And I was already there. I was halfway there before I ever got into mixed martial arts.
Mhm.
And that massive fail moving over there, and it was some big news around here. I mean, everybody knew I was fighting. I was a fighter, and I loved the
Mhm.
shine and the identity. And and it's still pretty exotic thing to do, is to go over to Thailand and train for a while. Back
Totally.
then, it was 20 times more exotic, especially
Right.
moving over there. So
Sure.
I used this massive fail as proof, as evidence that there was something wrong with me, and I was doomed to fail, and I was not good enough. Now I've got definitive evidence. My greatest fear is now true, and I've got the proof.
Sure.
And I decided to stay over there, man. Because there was not a chance in hell that I was moving back to Virginia and not being that same person, because most of my friends were fighters, and there's not a chance that I was going to go back to being that old Mark.
Right.
And so I chose to be a no one in a strange land, and I lived over there for 10 years.
Wow.
Yep. And by the grace of the Almighty, whatever that it may be, I got a great job over there teaching sports. I was an elementary school PE teacher at the American School of Bangkok.
Oh, wow.
And what a great gig, dude. I taught dodgeball, I taught frisbee, I took kids swimming 2/3 of the time, and we were on an American calendar. So I had 4 months paid vacation. And after about a year of hating life, when I mean hating life, I mean hating life, I said to myself,
Phew.
hey, man, you can do this for an extended period of time. Are you going to be a 57-year-old guy complaining, chewing on this bone of what could have been, and how you got robbed of, and just being a loser? Because
Sure.
we have two very simple definitions of winners and losers in the enlifted community. It's very simple. Winners focus on winning, they celebrate winning. Losers focus on losing and celebrate losing. As in,
I love that.
I kept playing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over in my head.
Wow.
Which is, I'm practicing it. I'm practicing the loss. And I looked at that 50 and change year old version of me, and Brandon, I said, anything but that. I'll take anything but that.
Yeah.
Dude.
Ooh, good choice.
Good, right? That was gonna be no fun cubed. And
right.
dude, right around that same time, my vice principal had come back from this cleansing and detox resort called the Spa on Koh Samui, which is an island in the Gulf of Thailand. And he came back bouncing, and he said, "They're doing some really cool stuff down there. I think you could get into it. You should go."
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, and it was a cleansing resort. You do detoxes down there. I
Sure.
paid to not eat for 7 days. It's a great gig.
And good business model.
Took great business model. I mean, line them up.
Yeah.
They were running the Rise and Shine cleansing program. Dr. Richard Anderson, I believe, is his name, and
Mhm.
it was definitely the Rise and Shine. And so you're taking the detox pills and the psyllium shakes with bentonite clay, and then there's the 5 gallons of gravity fed water up your rear end twice a day. So
Wow.
it cleans out a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back feeling just a pinch better.
Yeah.
And I said, I can do this. This is a way for me to participate differently in my life. And I kept going.
Yeah.
And the 3rd trip down, I ended up one evening going to an emotional detoxification workshop.
Mm.
And I met a man who would profoundly change the direction of my life. He ended up becoming my first mentor in this work, Barry Musgrave. Shout out to Barry Musgrave. He's early 60s then, British guy. And guess what they were talking about? Language. And guess what they were talking about? Stories. And guess what they were talking about? Identities.
Yeah.
And then he asked if anyone was having any problems, some suffering, stuck somewhere in your life. And this one woman shot her hand up, and it was legit. It was a legit story. It was about a bad breakup and how she wouldn't get in a relationship. She hadn't been in a relationship since for 4 years because she was still stinging about it, dude. So what happened is, and anyone would have been about this. I mean, I get it. Her and her friends go down to Beach Week. So if you don't know, Beach Week is everybody goes and gets houses at the beach, and it's an alcohol and fueled circus. And her
sounds like Panama City,
where I went, cheated on her. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. Just pick your beach. And her boyfriend cheated on her with one of her best friends in front of everybody the night before, and then dumped her in front of everybody the night after.
Wow.
And in public, so it's insult to injury. And she was still way hurting about it. So he took her through the story, and she's sad. Excuse me. The first time through, she was angry and tears. And he started to adjust the words and made a couple of changes and had her tell the same story a little bit different that second time through. And that second time through, some of the weight started to lift. She started to take it less personally. And now she's sad, no tears. Third time through the story, went to the crux of the issue where she was blaming him and herself and using it again as evidence that there was something wrong with her, which is quite common. And turned the whole thing around, turned it on its head. And then she goes, she got through enough of the emotional stuff to where she goes, yeah, that guy was actually pretty weird. It wasn't going to work anyway. And that happened in about 7.5 to 8 minutes.
Wow.
And I'm looking at that, and
your jaw's on the floor.
I think to myself, that's not my story. Right. That's not my story, but that's my story. And I've had two loves in my life, Brandon. One was fighting and martial arts. And the other has been language and story work. And I fell in love with them at first sight, both times. Cool. And that was in 2003. January 17th, 2007, I moved back down to that. I kept going, dude. I kept going to the spa and just went so deep into the alternative weird everything rabbit hole. Two, yeah, oh, yeah. January 17th, 2007, I moved back down to that spa and as a counselor, as one of the people that was working there, working with the patrons.
Cool.
And I've been somewhere between full time and overtime the whole time since. So I turned 14 years old professionally speaking this coming January 17th,
Wow.
which is, I believe, a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations. What a cool,
Thanks,
what a
man.
cool journey,
It's fun.
man. And it's what a cool journey. And it's such a great example of, you know, how often do we see like someone, you know, someone whose, you know, dharma, let's say, is to help heroin addicts. Okay, well, first I had to experience what it was like to be a heroin addict. Same kind of thing. As someone who's 14 years deep in helping people to rewrite their narratives, understand the power of language, you know, telling stories that actually serve them. Well, you had to be on the other side of that to really appreciate and understand, you know, and
Yeah.
to do the work that
I
you're doing,
did.
right?
Yeah, I really did. And thank God I didn't get what I wanted back then, which
Yeah.
was, if I know myself so well, brother. Uh, um, there's a part of me, and you know, over the years of working on myself and looking at my faults and my shadowy tendencies and my mean streak, and um, there's a part of me that would right now still love to be in the fight game, as in it would
Sure.
have been. There's part of me that would have been happier than anything to have uh, just done that till the wheels came off. Just, you know,
Yeah.
and that would have been, it would have been a thing. It would have been something, but and um, I would have never liked myself,
Yeah.
you know, because it was all that was me trying to prove that I wasn't scared, because I knew I was scared, and me uh, feeding, literally feeding, metaphysically off of intimidating people.
Sure.
So I was not a nice person, and I did not like myself. Two negations right there. And now I enjoy being me. I'm comfortable in my skin. I breathe so well, which is one of the many benefits, folks, from making just even a couple of slight adjustments in the everyday, ordinary language that you speak, or
Yep.
and just language. So Brandon and I are going to talk a lot about language today. And when we're talking about language, it's very simple. Language, it's our internal dialogue and our external dialogue. What internal, what we think, and external, what we say and what we write. And here's the whole thing in a nutshell, is that our language powerfully influences us for better and for worse. That's it.
Right.
One sentence, summation, distillation. Everything else is details. And this is absolutely 159,000% a conversation about education. We're not taught this stuff. I have a degree in education, and I taught, and I came up through the public school system. I didn't have one course, class, or conversation on either side of that fence about how my language influences how I see myself in my mind's eye, or how I feel about myself in my emotional, as far as my emotions and feelings are concerned, or how my language, for better and for worse, influences my posture, and especially no practical, as in how do I turn this into a practice? Practical information about how to use my language to keep me in a down-regulated parasympathetic nervous system response state and get my breathing down in my abdomen, low and slow, where it is designed to be. Most people's breathing is wrecked. Their breath is trapped in their upper chest, known as sympathetic nervous system response, shallow breathing, labored breathing, or coastal breathing, stressed states, because we've got a glitch in our language, and most people use their language in a very sloppy and destructive way, and it has everything to do with lacking the basic understanding about the mechanism, the
Right.
mechanics of storytelling, the
Right.
words and how to employ the words, how to use the words, how to inflect upon certain words, and how to breathe well. Because there's a subset of the English language. We call it victim language. And when people
Mm-hmm.
use it, you're going to script all kinds of victim stories. And guess what victim stories build? Just like I'm sitting sitting in front of a cinder block wall, just like cinder blocks. Victim stories build victim identities, and
Sure.
once that thing gets set up, it is if you lack the know-how to deconstruct it, it's very, very hard to deal with. I mean, dude,
Yeah.
what's more seductive than our own voice in our own head?
Yeah.
It it might be the most seductive thing on the planet because it's so ordinary and it sounds
Mm.
just like us. Might as
Yeah.
well believe it. What
Yeah.
could possibly go wrong? Most people are sitting ducks to that voice. They're absolutely
Totally.
defenseless. And totally. And having said that, a little bit of you all are going to get more practical, as in you can practice this practical information on this podcast about how your language influences you for better and for worse than most people get in the entirety of their lifetime.
Yeah.
And just a little bit of that goes a long way, because otherwise eh, otherwise it's you're almost guaranteed to script a victim mentality. I'm going to take a
Right.
little bit out of the middle. This is the verbatim definition of the victim mentality. So the victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a
Mm.
person tends to regard himself or herself as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. The victim
Mm.
mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributes. That second sentence is so telling, ladies and gentlemen. The victim
Mm.
mentality depends, as in it has to have a habitual thought process. Habitual accurately implies duration, and it accurately implies addiction. Absolutely, people. I was so addicted to my identity as a fighter that when you ever seen the movie Ray?
Mm.
Jamie Foxx
No, I know of it, but
playing
I never
Ray
watched
Charles.
it.
Oh, dude, my God, what a great performance! What an absolute
Yeah.
talent Jamie Foxx is.
Yeah,
At the
he's
very
good.
end, oh, he's so good. The very end, it's Jamie Foxx, as in he's Ray Charles, lying in bed, coming off of heroin, and he's sweating the bed, and he's having these electric jolts go through his body. I did that coming off of my addiction to being a fighter. I
Wow.
laid in bed for days in Bangkok. I sweat the bed, and it felt like every maybe 20, 30 minutes, somebody would hit me in the ass with a cattle prod.
Wow.
And dude, I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So, yeah, yeah, um, man, I did it all to myself. It's the best of news and the worst of news.
Yeah.
Sweet, I'm creating my own reality. I'm creating my own story. Shit, I'm
Yeah.
creating my own story. It's
Totally.
literally the best of news, and it's literally the worst of news. And I would imagine that this would appeal to your positive head audiences.
Mm-hmm.
We do some work in corporate, and I can promise you this. I leave this out of the conversation. You know what we're talking about today, folks? We're talking about spelling.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about spells. By definition, the Webster's definition of a spell is a word or a combination of words of great influence.
Ooh.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
Your words are your wands.
And when you, dude, straight up. And when you or I or anyone, I suggest starting to look at your language and put it into two different camps. Okay, and I'll give you some more information later on how to do that well. I want you to think of your spells as in the language going on, the word, the voice in your head. That's your spelling. What comes out of your mouth, you're spelling. What you're texting on your phone and sending your emails, you're spelling. I want you to think of your spells as either constrictive or expansive. Here's two stories.
Love it.
So is it okay if I drop an F-bomb on here?
Drop away.
Drop away. Okay, great. So the woman comes in, sits down for a session, and she's just extremely forward and blunt with the whole thing. She sits down and said, I'm like literally upon impact, as soon as she sits down, I'm struggling in my marriage. My husband thinks I'm beautiful and I refuse to believe him. And I know where this is coming from. I just don't know what to do about it. I said, oh, do tell. She's 10 years old. She walks into her grandmother's house for Christmas. And as soon as she walks in the door, her great aunt is right there and leans down in her face and goes, my, you have a big nose, just like me.
Oh, geez.
Thanks for that. What does that little girl do? Tightens up, runs into the bathroom. What was the first thing you think she looked at, Brandon, when she got in front of the mirror?
Definitely her nose. So clear, even Ray Charles could see that.
Definitely her nose. Exactly. My dad says I find it funny. Ray Charles could see that, dude. Yes. Good. Yes, exactly. And guess what, folks? Her nose was no bigger now than it was 10 seconds ago, physically speaking. But now, in her imagination, she's got a honker, which means she's ugly. So when her husband, who was authentically attracted to her, would say, baby, you look fantastic tonight, she'd go, you don't really mean that. Because guess what? She had a filter put up. We're going to talk about the reticular activating system in a second. Because once that gets programmed, if you're into personal and professional development, and guess what you are, since you're listening to this podcast, you're a fan of this podcast, look up the reticular activating system. This is must-know information. Go to YouTube, put in reticular activating system. You'll get a short little 5-minute YouTube video and then a great TEDx talk about it. The first two things that come up. And the reticular activating system is it is responsible for the search. It's got a couple of functions. One of them is once it gets programmed to find more and more of that thing, get confirmation on it. And while it's getting confirmation on it, edit out the other stuff. Important side story. 2017, I walk out of the front door in the morning. I'm going to give a presentation. I'm rehearsing in my head. And I walk over to where my car was parked the night before. And it's gone. As in gone. And I'm not the person that drove off in it. So I call the police. I said, hey, police, my car got stolen. Hold on, buddy, we're coming. And then I called my dad. I said, Dad, my car got stolen. I got stuff to do. I need the farm truck. So I go out to the farm and I get one of my father's prized possessions, a 1985 mint condition Ford F-150 truck, 2 tones of brown. He bought it off the showroom floor in 1985. Keeps it out under a canopy at the farm, and we call it Brown and Browner. Yeah, and I start driving Brown and Browner. True story, dude. Start driving Brown and Browner around Richmond, and guess what? I started seeing more and more and more of
Brown F-150s,
1985-ish Ford F-150s. Actually, there's quite a few around the Richmond area, and the only people that know it are the people that drive those cars. And we've all had that experience. We get in a car, we buy a car, we start seeing that car out and about. Where are these cars coming from? That is the reticular activating system. So once I get in the car, and it's completely impartial, I get in the car, I start driving the car, my RAS goes, this is an important thing. I'm going to go find more of them. And while I'm finding
Right.
more trucks, I'm editing out. That's the other part. I'm editing out the blue vans, the red Oldsmobiles. So same thing with the little girl. Okay. Now that she's ugly, that is now the thing to find confirmation, more and more confirmation of. And while I'm doing that, or while it's doing that, it's editing out any contrary information, as in
Right.
compliments. If any of you all are hard pressed to you get uncomfortable receiving a compliment, it's because some part of you is bought into you not being complimentable, if that's even a word.
Right.
And guess what? It works both ways. So that was by definition, you have a big nose just like me, is a combination of words that massively, greatly influenced that little girl. Okay.
Mhm.
And it works both ways. So here comes the F-bomb. I'm doing a presentation in 2014. Gratify.
Thanks for the warning.
I was on the hippie scene for a little while, dude. That's where the cosmic giggle came from. And I gave the presentation. There's a guy sitting up right next to me, and he came up afterwards. He heard the whole thing. He was right there. He goes, "Man, that was great. You want to hear an awesome story?" Who says no to that, by the way? And I'm like, "Yeah, sure.
Right.
Tell me an awesome story." And he goes, "Yeah, right. Me, awesome stories? No, ew, get away."
Yeah. Only the best thing that exists is a good story.
It's the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever. And he said my grandfather took me out in the backyard when I was 13, and I forget the guy's name. We'll just call him Dave. And he said my grandfather said, "Little Davey, life's a trip. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. There's going to be zigs and zags and twists and turns, and you're going to get some things right. You're going to get some things wrong. Just always remember to err on the side of being a badass motherfucker." And he said in that instant, his entire world changed.
Wow. Before we continue on with today's episode, I'd like to take a quick moment to tell you about our sponsor, NuCalm. As you all know, mindfulness and meditation are key components to being the best version of ourselves. Not only does NuCalm help with sleep, as I mentioned before, but it also helps get you into a deep transcendental meditative state. It doesn't matter if you're just starting your mindfulness practice or you've been practicing meditation for years, NuCalm will allow you to make the most out of mindfulness sessions. NuCalm shifts you into the calming brainwave states of meditation and slows your breathing. It's the only system of its kind that's clinically proven in over 1 million sessions to improve your sleep, reduce your stress, boost your recovery without drugs and side effects, because it uses 3 non-invasive, non-pharmaceutical items, all of which come in your monthly subscription. So if you'd like to feel better rested and less stressed in 2021, head over to positivenucalm.com, where Positive Head listeners will get 50% off a 30-day subscription of NuCalm, which also comes with a money-back guarantee. That's positivenucalm.com. Check it out.
So Brandon, we're in a new year, right? 2021 just kicked off.
Indeed it did.
Indeed we did. And what do most people do at the beginning of the year, or think about doing, or at least have a friend who's setting some goals, huh? It's a thing.
Or in
to
my
do.
case, just eating a lot of Christmas candy.
Well, I mean, it tis the season, as they say. Do you have? So we're gonna take this conversation and make it extremely practical. As in, this next part of the conversation, people can practice it immediately and create an experience for themselves by using their language in just a slightly different way. So,
cool.
Do you have a pen?
I do, right here.
Okay, great. Let's go with 2 goals for 2021, Brandon. One personal, one professional, totally wide open. So, and write them out in a, I know you know a lot about goal setting, and write them out in two singular sentences. So I want to start my own business, or I want to run a marathon, or whatever. One personal, one professional. And so while he's doing that, folks, this is called soft goals. Okay.
Cool.
And because I get asked frequently, Mark, what do we do? And I have two answers. I have a macro answer and I have a micro answer. This is the micro answer. So Brandon, read your first goal, please.
I intend to be more zen in challenging situations.
Perfect. And the feeling that creates, that sentence.
Zen.
Okay.
Chill. Don't react to stressful, overwhelming energies of,
Okay.
It instantly takes me the opposite direction hearing it.
Very cool. And what's the second sentence?
The second one is pretty general, just to, expand my reach. Let's say expand my reach tenfold, at least.
Okay, great. And the feeling that sentence creates, that goal creates.
Expansion.
All right.
Next level experience.
All right, folks, here we go. So just for point of reference sake, Brandon, read that first sentence again, that first goal.
I intend to be more zen in challenging situations.
Put a sorta anywhere in that sentence.
That's so good. I sort of intend to be more zen in challenging situations.
Okay, folks, what do? We put one word into that goal, into that affirmation, into that sentence. And what happened to the energy, Brandon?
It made me laugh.
Because
it's so weak.
One word weakened that sentence. Okay, let's keep going. Second sentence. Read the second goal, please.
I sort of hope to expand my reach by tenfold.
Exactly. We could have put a maybe in there. We could have put a kinda. We could have put a perhaps. I perhaps intend to increase my reach tenfold. Folks, there's this subset. It's one of the 3 pillars of victim language in the vocabulary system. Okay. And it's called soft talk. And it is everywhere. It is a scourge to humanity. As far as the English-speaking world is concerned, it also translates perfectly into Spanish. I've lived in a couple of Spanish countries. Anyway, that's another story. And soft talk causes all kinds of problems, from frustration to anxiety to indecision to overwhelm. If you want more of those things in your life, folks, use more soft talk. Okay. Just add in a kinda, add in a think, add in a guess, add in an almost like, and watch what happens. You'll get more and more soft and wishy-washy and indecisive. Or if you would like to become more confident and clear and focused and solid with your language and with your energy, your feelings and emotions, and in your imagination. And guess what? You get more solid in your language. You breathe better because you get yourself out. Anxiety, indecision is extremely stressful.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we're going to do, folks, so we're going to do 2 things. We already did the soft goals. We made the point. Yep, there got some laughs in there. Normally happens. Now, this is the soft talk challenge. Okay, so get a pen and a piece of paper, folks. And I want you to write down, there's only about 10 soft talk keywords. These 10 words, 5 times larger than you normally write. What that's going to do, remember the reticular activating system? That's going to activate that.
I like that.
And and so the reticular activating system goes, why am I writing these words 5 times larger? And it goes, I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'm going to pay more attention to them because they're important. Okay. They're getting some extra attention. So first soft talk keyword, maybe. Second soft talk keyword, think. I think I'm drinking too much coffee. No, take out the think. You are. You know you are. Guess. I guess I'm making a lot of excuses. It's almost like, here's a good one, Brandon. You'll laugh on this. It's almost like I'm procrastinating. Sort of.
Is. Did you say, go on. So maybe, think, guess. Was there a fourth one?
Yep. Almost
like together. Got it.
Yep.
I'm writing.
Sort of. Kind of. Probably. Perhaps, especially for the Brits, man, they love that. They love perhaps. Yeah, I've done some rounds in the UK. I know. Hopefully, try, and one day. Do not be a 1-day person. Be a 2-day person. It's different. And here's what you do, folks. You take that piece of paper and you tape it up somewhere where you're going to see it. The bathroom mirror is usually where people go with it most of the time. So you're going to see that sometime throughout the day for the next 7 days. That's the soft talk challenge. We've been running this for years. People love it because it works. You put the words up, you wrote them big. Of course, you listen to this podcast, and guess what you're going to start doing, because your reticular activating system is now going to pay more attention to these oh so very special words. And that's where it starts. First, you build the awareness, and then and also this is the easiest place to start the conversation, because all you have to do is pluck out the soft talk. I guess I need to spend some more time with my girlfriend. No, I do. I do need to spend more time with my girlfriend. Okay, well then now what does that look like? I'm into action mode as opposed to going back and forth about something, which 98% of the time when people are using soft talk, they know,
Yeah, right.
They know. And still it's so socially acceptable too. If people use it to placate themselves. People use soft talk to keep themselves small, so they don't offend anyone, or ruffle any feathers by making too big of moves. It's sinister, truth be told. Oh, and by the way, did I mention that it is very stressful? Soft talk turns out. And if you want to make me super duper happy, take a picture of it, put it on Instagram. Tag me, Mark England 2020. Just tell your friends, hey, I'm doing the soft talk challenge, Mark England. I love that. So that's the micro answer. That's the rubber meets the road. Go after those soft talk keywords. And here's my promise to you. If you decrease the use of soft talk in your language by 50%, you cut it in half, you will sound and feel and act differently. And it will be noticeable, first and foremost to yourself, and then other people as well. So then there's the second.
Real quick, if I can speak to that real quick. It's I love this, this whole exercise, because it's so simple, so powerful, so practical. It makes me think of there are a few Bible verses that I like and will quote. I used to say I never quote the Bible verse except this one verse. Now there's like 2 or 3 or 4. Like, okay, so there's some good verses, and there's one in that goes, so then because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Yep. And that's what it makes me think of. It's like these are Luke ass warm words that people are using, and it's so habitual and so rampant. You're right.
Dude, it crushes people. A buddy of mine I went to high school with, Chad Onken. He was a very talented swimmer, went on into college and just he almost went to the Olympics. Guy was legit. And so now what he teaches swimming full time, and I got on a call with 20 12 to 14-year-old teenage girls.
Wow.
And did a workshop, a 1-hour workshop on language. Their level of soft talk was nuclear, dude.
It made me laughing probably.
It made 90210 look like just a decision fest.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, my God, if they keep doing this, it's going to slow down, it's going to impede, it's going to retard their development. Yes, I just said retard, because guess what? I know the definition of the word retard.
Right.
Okay, which is
and which I could tell them
the development of. No, that's it.
I was going to say, it was obvious too in your delivery of it. It's like I'm using this as the word is intended, not in a derogatory reference. It's like, because of the energy and delivery of the word.
Yeah, it's as in flame retardant. The definition of retard is to impede the development of. And when someone uses victim language, a ton of soft talk, they're negating. I don't like this. I can't keep doing that. I shouldn't have these problems. I'm not going to spend all my money. So they're forcing themselves to stare at the worst case scenarios and the problems. And then you sprinkle in some projections. He made me think we needed to get married. She's always talking over me. My father refuses to acknowledge me. My mother's never there for me, which bet your sweet asses, folks, when you use projections, you're creating victim and villain mental imagery. And that is the fast track to bitter and resentment and anger. And guess whose time that wastes more than anyone? It's yours. So when you combine those are the three pillars of victim language. And in my 14 years in the game, coaching full time, those language patterns are responsible for roughly 85% of people's problems and hangups and blocks and fears. When someone uses that language unconsciously from time to time throughout the day, over a prolonged period of time, they are retarded, as in they've impeded their development. And it's an inside job. No one's coming, folks. Newsflash, no one's coming to save you. Okay, only you can change the story that you tell yourself about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the most hardcore and best news that I can tell you. And just understanding about the specifics of words and the mechanics, the mechanism of storytelling, which leads me into the second piece of advice, which is to do it a couple of times just for one day, which is slow down your rate of speech by about 20% when you're conversing with someone, and watch what happens. When someone slows down their rate of speech, the breath starts to descend down into the chest, and then if you keep going, it'll get down into the abdomen, and magical things will happen. Some of those magical things will be your newly found increased ability to connect dots between what you think and what you say and how you feel. You'll have extra mental real estate to feel the energetic texture of the words, of the energy that you create with the words that you use. And you start to be able to play your language like the musical instrument that it is, or you use your language to play you. You're the instrument. And when you get your breath working for you, lower and slower, and you're being just slightly more considerate
Mm-hmm.
and constructive with your words, you're talking about becoming a different version of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's fun. If you want to feel good, if you want to be creative, if you want to be able to move forward in your life and get some things done that are valuable to you, if you want to create better relationships, um, you name it. What do you want? Very likely, you will be. It's a good idea to improve your language choice and how you breathe.
Yeah. Yeah. I can say for me, it goes right back with my intention that we just ran, I read off, which to be more Zen, it's to tame sort of my fire and to calm things down. And it's why I always really notice when someone's doing that, or they're that way, whether intentionally or not. I really notice and admire it because it's very soothing. And, for me, it's like I have to like really pay attention not to talk super, super fast and, it just sort of, and it takes a toll on your nervous system, right? So it's been something that I've been really aware of lately.
Yep.
In myself.
It's a negative feedback loop too, buddy, which is somebody, we tell ourselves a certain story about a situation, and it's of a stressful nature, and we start to constrict, and the breathing starts to reside in the upper chest, like we talked about.
Yeah.
And that creates more tension. And then we speak faster. You'll see this. I'm a public speaking coach as well. And you'll see this. This is 101 public speaking. When people get on stage and they have not prepared well, which is the number one reason why people flounder on stage. Lack of preparation. Somebody gets up there and they start to constrict, and then they start speaking faster, and they start to constrict some more, and they start speaking faster, and then the whole mechanism, they lose control of it, and very not fun things happen. So those right there, folks, are two very tried and true, road tested ways of you creating an experience for yourself with your words. And most of the time, a couple of positive interactions with someone in a conversation, or you take some soft talk out of a text and you get a very solid, clean reply back from the person, and you get the outcome that you're looking for. You're like, wait a minute, that dude was serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am. I'm very serious. I'm also very sincere.
Right. Yeah, I love it. It's just so, I love the simplicity and power of it all. And it's like, and we can all so quickly self-examine and see, it's not like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to at least observe it in yourself. No, it's another thing to apply it and remember, right? But
yeah.
So
you said it, rocket science. I say that a lot. Like this is not rocket science, folks.
Yeah. Huh.
And yet you're 1,000% right, Brandon. The application of it, though, requires skill.
Yeah. Awareness.
That too.
Not being breathing shallow and moving too fast.
Yeah. It's very true. And in the heat of the moment, it can be an extremely challenging thing to do, which also, that's part of the reason why it keeps me in the game, because I find that fascinating.
It's a daily conscious effort.
Very much so.
So one of the things that I'd like to just talk about, and you touched on briefly before we were recording, and I'd love to just hear you speak to it, is, as someone who's been coaching for a long time, one of the things that you mentioned is that it can cause trauma bonding and how to avoid that. And I'm curious to hear more about that.
Yeah. Great conversation. So we certify coaches, and we talk about breathing almost as much as we talk about language. And the seat of the foundation of a good, healthy, clean coaching practice with longevity in it is getting your breath low and slow, folks. So it's down in your abdomen. And there's a couple reasons why we don't recommend it. We hammer that point from start to finish on all of the all levels of our coaching certification. Because when someone, as in I'm speaking to you as if you're a coach, when your client goes emo, as in they emote, what most people's unconscious knee-jerk reaction to do is to tense up with them.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to avoid that at all costs. What I'm not saying, negation acknowledged, is to repress any kind of emotional reaction. No. What you want to do, and I get emotional sometimes when I'm coaching, someone's telling an especially poignant story. I allow myself that. I stay emotionally fluid, and I keep my breath low and slow. So I'm doing both the emotional expression and the down regulation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if my client tenses up and I tense up and I'm now breathing in my chest because they're breathing in their chest, I am now bonding with them over their trauma.
Interesting.
And I've been saying this for years, and it's true. Part of me would love to be able to see the energetics of human interaction when it comes to emotions and stories. Same thing with you're coaching someone, and part of me wouldn't. Okay, because I bet that it can get extremely dirty.
Yeah.
Okay, when people match the stress response. Another reason you want to get your breath low and slow in coaching is because of something called entrainment. Look this up. I can break, it's not that I can, I do. I break people's patterns with my breath because I get my breath down there. I don't even think about it anymore. I just keep it there. And what that does is it gives them, it sets the tone for the coaching interaction. Entrainment was first noticed in the 1600s in a Swiss clock shop, as that all of the smaller clocks would come into sync with the most powerful clock in the room.
Interesting.
Yep. And people talk about holding space. I'm not interested in holding space. I command space. I command my space with my breath. And from there, another reason that you want to keep your breath low and slow when you're coaching is so that you can hear. When someone goes into a stress response and the breath gets trapped in the chest, it's called amygdala hijack. Look it up. Their ability to hear goes way down. And guess what? Listening's kind of important when you're coaching. And also people's ability to, when someone's breathing in their chest, you lose your periphery and you lose the distance in your vision. You literally get fixated on something and it gets in your face, very close in your face. And if you're coaching someone, you have to lead. And if you're right there with them, this is where a lot of people mistake what they call being empathic is actually them trauma bonding with people.
Interesting.
Yep. I highly recommend not doing that. It's very okay to go on an emotional ride with someone. And unless you want to, some hippie words for you, take some of that on, get your breath low and slow. And I learned this the hard way, man. I started coaching before I had any training in any awareness in where to put and keep my breath. And I would do sessions all day long. I wouldn't be able to eat in the afternoon. I would have indigestion, and it just felt like I couldn't get it off with a shower. And what I noticed, what I started paying attention to, is that the stronger the emotional releases in the session, the worse, quote unquote, indigestion I would have later in the afternoon.
Interesting.
And eventually I got around to breathing well, and that whole thing disappeared.
Wow.
And like I said, we certify coaches, and I see the people that get exhausted quickly with this work. They're the people that have yet to master their breathing. And it is absolutely something to be mastered. Good luck doing it overnight, because there's so much going on energetically, consciously and subconsciously in a coaching session, in a healing session, pick your words, that in my opinion, it is a very high level of demonstration when someone can navigate the language and the stories and keep their breath low and slow. That's when they've got a lot of the boxes checked. And therein lies fluidity, which is what your clients are looking for. They're coming to you to get unstuck about something. And you provide that first and foremost with your breath. You set the tone. How are you going to talk to them about getting unstuck when your breath is stuck in your own chest?
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk about it, but you're not demonstrating it.
Yeah.
I go off on rants.
No, it's a good rant. It's a really good rant, and really one that for me is like, ideal to hear. Because if I needed to identify my own weakness, it's here. And just getting so emotive and so much emotion and so much energy and not paying attention to my breathing in that process. And I've particularly had it in recent days, sort of almost interesting in as synchronicity would have it, leading up to our conversation. It's been particularly challenging for me because of all the things that I have going on and deadlines. And it just sort of was like, oh my gosh, it's like even 3 days ago, is this the first time I've ever felt like a mini anxiety attack? I mean, I don't know that it would qualify as an anxiety attack because I've seen people have, some intense ones. But for me, as someone who I view myself as handling, a lot and say stress pretty well, but really, if I'm ever in that anxious state, I'm not maybe I can, it's like, oh, I can take a lot of abuse, it's as opposed to, I don't know if handling it well is really the right perspective and I can trace it at the times I have been aware enough to really focus on my breath. And I've been doing a lot of breath work in the last Excellent. 6 months or so for the, really starting to make that a practice, and worked it into my book and everything. But pretty new on the journey. And, so it's, I just love everything that you're sharing and saying, cause it hits so close to home for me and where my own work lies,
It's how well we breathe is directly correlated to how much we enjoy being ourselves.
Yeah.
My business partner says it. He says, if you like being you're winning.
Yeah.
And it's super hard to enjoy being you, or let me turn this in on me. It applies, everything I say applies to me 100% of the time. It's impossible for me to enjoy being me if my breath is trapped in my chest. It's an extremely uncomfortable place to reside. I'm uncomfortable in my own skin.
Yeah.
And dude, my breathing mechanics were the worst, buddy. They were the absolute worst. I was just so tense, so rigid, and through a concentrated force of will and a hell of a good why, I have repatterned my breathing. And there's not a damn thing special about me. If I can repattern my breathing mechanics, anybody can repattern their breathing mechanics. Oh, and by the way, your language is directly linked to your ability to do that. So you do both, folks.
Yep. Reflections of each other, right? And it's like you said, it's like the if you look at everything symbolically, is reflective in a sense. If you're breathing really shallow and you sort of correlate that to how much you can handle or how much you can manage in your life and the stresses that come from day-to-day life, versus a very deep breathing, it's like this much more expanded, ability to hold what is, as opposed to, this panicky, and it's funny, you had said how bad yours was before, and you were also so involved in fighting, and I instantly thought of like that fight or flight energy, right? So,
dude, yeah. I mean, people talk about tight shoulders. I had the tightest shoulders. They were just plastered up, touching the bottoms of my ears. If people have tight shoulders, you know what that means? That they have bad breathing mechanics 95% of the time. Or maybe they're doing too much trap work in the gym, but most of the time, tight shoulders comes from breath in the upper chest. That it just everything stagnates there energetically, and eventually it shows up in the physical tissues.
Yeah, interesting. Well, this has been so fascinating as we wind down here, Mark. I mentioned synchronicity a minute ago. Listeners know I love to hear a story of synchronicity or serendipity or a positive paranormal story even. You said you were on the festival scene for a while. Pull out your good magical hippie stories for us.
Yeah, I've got a couple of them.
Well, whatever you feel called to share. I'm never going to turn away a good story or stories.
Yeah, this is a good story of a fuck up. How about one of those?
Let's please.
Right. Okay. So I'm living in Ecuador at the time. This is the difference. There's a difference, folks, in following the heart and following the head. All right. And here's an example of me making the wrong decision. So I'm living in Ecuador. This is in 2012. And my buddy calls me up and he said, "Hey, dude, I got this friend of mine. He's a rich guy and his wife is going absolutely mental. He can't take it. He lives in Ohio. Can he fly you up there for a 5-day intensive with his wife? Story work." And I'm like, well, I gave a number. He came back. He said, "Yep." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I fly up to Ohio, live with these people for a week. Yeah, it was a real scene, and and then come back. And so I'm at my family's farm, and I remember exactly where I was standing, looking west as the sun is setting, and I've got a stack of cash in my hand, 2 tickets to Burning Man. I'm on the phone with one of my mentors, and he's got an RV, and there's this gorgeous Australian girl that wants to go with me. And I'm looking west as the sun's setting, and I'm on the phone, and he goes, "Are you sure, man?" Because I'm saying no. My heart was, the whole thing was just, it was a super warm everything. I had all the positive feels about making this move. And I went with my head. And my head was, I had 5 workshops planned on my way back to back down to Ecuador. And it was, I just mentaled myself into it. Oh, I gotta go do this stuff and all these people and and I just went straight mechanical.
Oh yeah.
And dude, it was like you're in the forest and you're in a fork in the road, and they look the exact same initially.
Sure.
And they're not. Once you get into them, it's like one of them would have been, little fairy streams and little deers playing around, and then there's a tavern with
some mushrooms for sure.
Mushrooms, and then exactly. And then there's a tavern with some people and playing guitar and nice people serving beers, and you could stay there, and then you keep on going, and there's some great friends. And the other one, once you get into it, it starts to turn into this evil forest with like snakes and spiders and broken glass. Dude, it's fucked my life. I fucked my life with the wrong decision for about 18 months because I couldn't get off the path once I was on it. It was so weird, dude. And I knew what I had done about 2 weeks in.
Yeah.
And all you got, you sometimes, as the old saying goes, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Yep.
So it was one of those fork in the road, choose wisely, dude. And I chose poorly, and I learned from that. And I have made I pay closer attention to the warm fuzzy feels now than I did. And you know what else? To bring it back to our conversation, it's a lot easier to make well-informed decisions based on the warm fuzzy feels, which is information. Okay, let's just get very basic and clear about it.
Yep.
And part of the reason that I went with my head on that mechanical, stiff, rigid, got to stick to the plan thing is because my breathing was bad.
Yeah, I was about to say the correlation between the shallow breathing and being stuck in a loop in your head of something that maybe isn't as important as being in touch with your heart is going to be synonymous with the deeper, more full breathing.
100%. Stressed states equaled stressed decisions.
Yeah. So there's a timeline where Mark went to Burning Man and is married to the Australian model.
She really was a model. Yeah. Had little Australian babies running around and that didn't happen.
Oh man. I would say it happened on another channel. There's another timeline.
Yeah. Okay. I like that, Brandon. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's happening somewhere and life is good there.
Yep. And the lessons that you received from going the path are different, but not necessarily worse, as in just different outcomes that lead to different opportunities. And ultimately, maybe had you taken that path, something good that's ahead would not have had the opportunity to appear.
Man, I'm a teacher at heart, and I'm the happiest guy in the world because I'm teaching story work. We're certifying coaches. I'm teaching something that has really saved me. And I'm watching the community grow. I'm watching the coaches go and get their hands dirty and get things right and get things wrong and learn their lessons and come back and we have conversations. And it is beyond gratifying. So I'll take everything that I put myself through in my past for this right now.
There you go.
Box checked.
Yep. There you go. Love that. I love it. Love it. Love it. Well, this has been so cool, Mark. You're awesome. This has been just such an incredible update. And, the listeners don't even know some of the technical issues we were having midway through. And you were just like, you're deep breathing, not irritated once. I can't say the same, but I learned, I was aware, okay, why is this happening for me? Okay. So all of this has just been divinely orchestrated, I feel, and I'm super grateful for it. For those that want who want to connect with you and, potentially work with you and follow what you're up to and all those things, how should they do that?
Super easy. 2 things. So we do 1 hour of live unscripted coaching every Tuesday night on my Instagram account. Every Tuesday night, 6 to 7 p.m. We're doing it every Tuesday for the entirety of 2021. Mark England 2020.
Cool.
And for some people want to study this stuff. Fantastic. It's an online course, 21 days. Brandon was promoting this 5 years ago when I was on the 20th show.
Yep.
It's crazy. And on a side note, man, congratulations on your success. Congratulations on just sticking with it, man.
Thank you, man.
I love watching that. It's very, very cool and it's very real. Here's the online course that will change your life. Because you know why? Because it'll change your language. That's all you need to do. You change your language, the stories will change. You change your stories, your identities will change. Procabulary.org. Click on courses, watch the 3-minute promotional video, and here's a promo code for $100 off. It's a $300 course, $299. $100 off promo code POSITIVEHEAD2, as in the number. POSITIVEHEAD2. That gets you $100 off. And you get the course for the entirety of your life, or the entirety of the internet, whichever,
Whichever
you get it
comes
forever.
first.
You get it forever. And if you take it, the magic number is 3. Take it the whole way through. 21 lessons, 10 minutes a lesson. Do it in the morning like an IV drip. And then when you're done, binge on the videos a week later, and then binge on the videos a week later after. As in you watch all the videos all the way through. It'll take you about an hour and 20 minutes. Skip the quizzes, skip the writing. And 3 times you do that, and you'll learn more about how our language influences us for better and for worse than most people learn in their entire lifetime or even lifetimes.
Beautiful.
I promise you that. Promise.
I believe it, my friend. I definitely feel it and see it and hear it. And such a cool conversation with you. I feel like we could go on and on. So we'll have to do this again sometime. I do have one final question I'd like to ask you as we sign off here. And it is this: in 60 seconds or less, what is the meaning of life according to Mark England?
It's whatever meaning we assign it. And for me, it's to meet my death prepared. And I've done enough of this work. This is more than 60 seconds. And I've done enough of this work to know that this is what I'm doing for the next 50 years. After 10 years in the game, I said, I have no more questions. I'm going to do this for 50 years. And I got on my calendar, and I went to January 17th, 2057. And I wrote down that is the day that I give my last presentation, talk, podcast, something, and then I walk. And if I do that, when I do that, I will do that. 50 years in the game, I'll be able to die well.
Yeah.
Because I delivered the payload. I'm encoded to do this work. Yep. And so I shall.
Love it, man. That's such a great answer. You are living your Dharma, and you're fully committed to it. And I believe nothing will get in your way. And thank you for fulfilling that here on the show today. And I look forward to, next time we'll definitely do this again at some point in the near future. Relatively near future. Less than 50 years.
Less than 50 years. Everybody, thank you for listening. Much appreciated. Abracadabra, forever and always.
Yes, indeed. Until next time, everyone, journey well. Love you so much. Also, before we sign off, I wanted to remind you about the Game with the Universe on our website. You can choose the first number that comes to your mind, and it'll pull up that episode number of the podcast. I've been saying this is a great way to co-create synchronicity and magic with your higher self for quite some time. And if you go to positivehead.com/universe, there is a super fun and simple interface to play this game with your higher self. I firmly believe just by setting the intention to play in this way, it opens up the door for magic, and it's a synchronistic way to hone in on nuggets of wisdom out of the huge catalog of episodes that are specifically appropriate for you at this time in your journey to becoming the next greatest and greatest version of yourself. And it also makes for a super fun way to spark the curiosity of friends and family by having them choose a number, so they'll hopefully go and check out their number as well, which I greatly appreciate because it helps us to spread the word about the podcast. Once again, the address is positivehead.com/universe. And as a quick reminder, if you're curious to learn more about Purium superfoods and why I take them almost every day, be sure to also check out positivehead.com/transformation. On this journey of becoming the next greatest and grandest version of ourselves that we have all embarked upon, I cannot stress the importance of managing your physical vibration enough. And quite honestly, Purium has put together the simplest plan I've found to do so. I have my favorite, the Appleberry Shake, at least 5 times a week. Once again, to learn more about the Purium transformation, go to positivehead.com/transformation. Or if you want to keep it simple and just try out my favorite, the Appleberry Shake, you can go straight over to ishoppurium.com and be sure to use code positivehead for 25% off. I'll spell that for you. It's ISHOPPURIUM.com. And be sure to use your Positive Head 25% coupon code.